I know everybody thinks of the rut as this prime time for deer hunting, the time that you've been waiting all year to put your rutcation vacation request in and go to the woods and lay down a giant buck. But when it comes to targeting a specific mature buck during the rut, it actually might work against you. That's why in today's video, we're gonna be giving you 5 reasons why the rut may be the worst time to kill a specific target buck throughout the year. If you don't get it done during the rut on a target buck, I'm gonna give you some reasons at the end of this video why you still have a great chance once the rut is over and into the late season. But before we get too deep into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you like these kind of videos, because we post these informational type of videos at least once a week. But getting into the reasons why this time may be the worst time to kill a specific target buck, reason number 1 is the unpredictable movement. During the rut, bucks only have one thing on their mind, and that's finding and breeding does.
It's party time!
This makes them erratic and unpredictable, and that target buck that you've been chasing all year that was sticking to a bed to food or a specific bedding or feeding area for the whole duration of the fall may be miles away chasing a hot doe onto a neighbor's property. Now, while this can make it really hard to target that buck in his usual spot, it can also work for you. Your target buck may be miles away chasing does, but someone else's target buck may be miles away from his home range chasing does on your property. So it's really a double-edged sword. This is the time of the year where a buck that you have never seen before runs by you 100 miles an hour chasing a doe, and it may be a buck even bigger than the target buck that you've been after all year. This is what makes it so tough to target a specific buck during the rut, because how unpredictable their movement patterns are. In my opinion, there's no such thing as patterning a mature buck during the rut, because he doesn't even know what he's gonna do day to day. I ended up shooting my target buck right here on October 19th this year. My biggest buck to date, 162-inch 10-point with a spur coming off the front of him right here. And I am really excited that I don't have to deal with all the anxiety and drama of the rut, because if that buck that I had been after for 3 years had been running away chasing does on someone else's property during the rut, it would have drove me crazy. But reason number 2 that it's hard to target a mature buck during the rut is there's increased competition from other hunters. During the rut, deer activity that you're probably gonna see throughout the entire year, but it's also the most hunter activity that you're gonna see in the woods as well. The heightened pressure means there's more competition for that buck and more ways that he can die. Those tree stands that you saw that were empty on your neighbor's property because it was 90 degrees in October, now most definitely have hunters sitting in them, and all of them are waiting for that one buck that piques their eye to run by chasing a doe. Especially a lot of places in the South where in early November, the gun season comes in right in the peak of the rut. In Oklahoma, it's the mid to late part of November when the gun season comes in. But we know with deer research about the peak breeding time, November 15th is the peak of the breeding time in Oklahoma. So that gun season coming in on the 22nd means that a lot of bucks are still going to be chasing does throughout the gun season, which means, and an increased hunter opportunity and another weapon in the woods means that bucks have a higher chance of getting shot during that period. Now, there is a higher likelihood with all the more hunters in the woods that your target buck is running, chasing a doe on somebody else's property. But like I said earlier, a buck that you have never seen before can come running by you, can change your season from doom to all smiles in a matter of moments. I wouldn't go full doom and gloom at this part of the season just because you're not seeing your target buck on trail camera, because the mature ones, the bucks that are 5.5 years old and older, are truly just a different animal, and they still, even chasing does, have a knack for surviving. The third reason why it's hard to kill a specific target buck in the rut is the lack of predictable patterns. Bucks tend to abandon their normal travel routes and patterns and maybe even bedding areas or places they choose to feed during the rut because they're searching for those first hot does, and you never know where that's going to lead them. Your trail cam data that you've been aggregating and using the entire early part of the season may not serve you well during the rut. We have a lease that we usually get hundreds of trail cam pictures every single night, overfeed or bait, and those turn into places where you're only getting maybe a dozen or 20 trail cam pictures during an entire daylight period now. And a lot of that has to do with the unpredictableness of the rut, of the deer running around in different places and not just standing there stagnant in front of your trail camera. The bucks are where the does are, and it's hard for a doe to stay stagnant, especially a hot one, in a feeding area for very long to get her picture taken when there's sometimes multiple bucks chasing her around and going places that you would never see deer during the year. Peyton went down to the lease and ended up shooting a really nice mature buck in I think it was November 10th. And what he said was the trail cameras are not telling the full story at this point of the year. Even though there may not be a ton of pictures on camera, it doesn't mean that deer are not moving in that area. You got to realize that a trail camera is a very singular focused view on one little area, and there could be deer running around behind it, to the left, to the right of it, 50 yards away, that you're never going to get on trail camera. So if you aren't going to the woods because your trail cameras aren't telling you to, this is the time to play your trump card, get in the woods despite what your cameras are telling you, because this is going to be some of the best daylight movement that you're going to see the entire year in the deer woods. You may have been going at it hard all season and your target buck has gone missing. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, he may have got a free ride on a tailgate back to one of your neighbor's shops, or he may be sitting at the taxidermist 10 miles away from your house in a skull cap. But with all jokes aside, there is a good chance that if you're hunting a mature buck, he's still alive after the rut. And I know the pain of your target buck getting laid down, because last year we were passing a 150-inch buck that we named Mr. Next Year, that we thought was going to be a mega giant in another year. During the last day of the rifle season, he wanders a couple properties over to the north of where we were hunting him and gets shot by a neighbor. And that buck was as big of a homebody as they come, and it sucked to watch him get shot, but it's just part of the feast or famine of the rut. But I did want to say there's a few things you need to consider even if your target buck is gone and you don't know whether he's alive or not. There's plenty of season to still hunt, and there's a good chance that he might show back up, but if not, there's still plenty of season to find a new target buck. Post-rut, these deer are going to be going back to a much more predictable bed to food pattern, and bucks often lose double digit of their body weight during the rut. It's a very hard time on a buck, so there's a good chance that he's going to be moving back to food sources and secure bedding areas to recoup that body weight that he lost during the rut. And if you were to check Facebook on November 20th, you'd think that every good buck in North America is dead, but it's just not true. I promise you there's plenty of mature bucks that made it through the rut. And with a lot of folks hanging it up after Thanksgiving or the gun season, there's going to be less people in the woods and bucks going back to a more predictable pattern. And this is a great time to target a mature buck, especially one that's winded down and needing to bulk back up after the rut. This is a great time post-rut to hone in on that target buck and get him killed. But before we go, I did want to remind you guys there's a lot more things in life that are more important than deer hunting. With Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, it's a great time to spend with friends and family and acknowledge the person who created all these great creatures that we love to chase, which is God. Take a step back, take a deep breath. There's deer out there to still be killed. There's still good bucks out there to be killed, and all hope isn't lost just because you didn't shoot your target buck during the rut or he's gone missing. So while the rut is definitely one of the best times of the year to be in the woods, it can be one of the worst times to target a specific mature buck that you've been after for the full year. The unpredictable movements, the increased competitions, and the does dragging these deer to properties and places they've never been throughout the rest of the year can really make it a tough time to kill a buck. But don't worry, post-rut, things are gonna go back to normal, and if you stick with it, maybe you'll be able to get that target buck that you've been after all year. But with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in to the Hunter's Advantage channel. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video, share it with a buddy, and subscribe to the channel. These informational videos, we're putting out 3 or 4 of these a month, so you're gonna wanna know when they go live on the channel, so hit that bell notification. And remember, not all hope is lost. There's plenty of season left. Go out there, good luck, shoot the big one, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.